session for discussion and or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, and A9.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first item is going to be public comment on the agenda items. Oh, can I have a motion to seal the minutes from executive session?
So moved.
Second.
There were no votes taken. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There were no votes taken in executive session tonight. First item is public comment on the agenda items, which is the budget. Again, we're going to do, everybody will get one turn for 2 minutes. I'm going to start it off at 30 minutes. If there's more people, I will extend the 30-minute time so everybody can have their 2-minute say. So, let's start public comment.
Before I begin, I just thought of something while I was sitting here, and I emailed all 5 of you something to your school email. Just something to think of. Okay, I just want to first reiterate a few points I made the other night. One, remember the city has underfunded the schools. Going back to the Beacon reported, my words from the other night, going back to the Great Recession. And a previous finance director once calculated it to be tens of millions, if not, hundreds of millions of dollars that we are in the hole. The district also had to pay the debt service, the interest on the bond from 2006, and that was at a cost of about $1.5 million a year. So that's $1.5 million that didn't get to go to education and to kids. It went to pay off a bond that the city should have been paying off. And so I just wanted to, mention that money that the city still owes the school. Last year at this time, I questioned the wisdom of the previous superintendent who, after years of requesting millions of dollars more each year, underfunding pensions, cutting sports, and threatening legal action against the city, did not ask the city for increased funding. All of the increased revenue that the city had in its coffers went to the city side, and the schools got shortchanged. I have faith that our current administration and school committee will seek to get increased funding from the city for our schools, especially since the April 21st, 2022 edition of the Warwick Beacon states that our mayor is prepared to discuss the school department's proposed budget and negotiate, which he did when he was on the school committee himself. The Beacon quotes the mayor as saying, "We're trying to go through the budget now and see what's going on. I know it's always a negotiation. I have every confidence that this school committee and administration will take up the mayor on his offer and that everyone will work in the best interest of the schools." On Tuesday, I also mentioned the proposed cuts to teaching positions. And I now know what those are, thanks to the administration. Cuts in elementary, cuts in special ed. Our elementary classes, many of them are overcrowded. I don't want to see any teachers, any positions cut from elementary. Special ed, I hope those cuts do not obviously affect programs and our most vulnerable students in the district. There's a cut to science. We have the next generation science standards exams. There's a cut to physical education. We need more physical education. Remember that this district cut phys ed down to 1 quarter a year when our kids need more physical activity, not just for their bodies, but also for their minds. There are 2 English cuts high school. Last year, there were 2 cuts to Tollgate and 1 cut to Pilgrim. Right now, there's going to be 2 more cuts for a total of 5 high school English in 2 years. I think that's outlandish, since every student has to take English, and I can speak for Tollgate. Many of the classes are overcrowded, and I'm sure many at Pilgrim are too. I think I've left the most egregious cut for last, though, the foreign language. As the state prepares to require every student to take 2 full years of a foreign language, we call them modern world languages now. The state's still calling them foreign languages. I don't see how we should cut any positions, because we're going to lose experienced Warwick teachers and then probably be looking for brand new ones in August. And we will have let ours go, and they will have had to find employment elsewhere.
You need to wrap up. Is that
Okay,
right?
all right, just one more, a reminder. The district is right-sized. We went over that. We've consolidated schools. We've lost many, many teaching and WISE positions, WTU positions, WISE positions, as we've right-sized. PD has been cut. I know it's going to be somehow woven into the school day. That's not going to work. It didn't work this year for many teachers who were trying to do letters. The state has unfunded mandates. We've got pathways. We've got our busing problem. There's a lot of money there are quite a few money problems here that the schools have that are not the school's fault. So the city, I'm sorry, is going to have to make up for money that they have not given us in the past and fund us properly so we can run our schools for our students, because we can't provide the best education possible if we don't have educators for the students. Thank you.
Good evening, Betty O'Leary, custodian, Greenwood Elementary. I worked overtime again tonight. Staffing shortages already. And I can't understand where there could be a lot of savings when we're paying unemployment, substitutes, and my overtime for those times that we need it. I have 3 soccer teams every night practicing at my school. I guess we'll have to close the school for our community. Maybe the mayor needs to hear that as well. I can't understand how, with unemployment and paying for everyone else, where we could see a significant issue with money. I also ask and request that, because our schools will be filthy, that they drop all of our personal inspections. I do not want to hear the fact that our bathroom's dirtier than normal. There's dust on this. Every year we get, actually, Ms. Higgins could probably answer a lot of that more than I could, but we get evaluated, not just personally, but our schools. That has to be eliminated, because I am not going to have on my record the fact that I cannot keep my school clean because I have nobody to work there but myself. That's not fair. Last year, we couldn't keep them clean enough. And I know you feel the same way. And I have such empathy for what you have to do. I really do. But I do implore you, the health of our children is just as important as the education. And I know that you feel that way too. I'm sorry you have to make these decisions. But all I can say is I hope they're the right ones. Because I'll tell you, I don't want to get one comment made to any one of us that our building can't be open because there's no heat. The sewer pipes are busted. My school's 100 years old. It's going to happen. And I don't want anyone to say to me, Mr. Oliver calling, he would never anyway, but blaming me for something. I don't want you to blame me either. And the city certainly shouldn't blame us for all this. So thank you for listening.
I'm John Burns, staff representative from Rhode Island Council 94. I represent the Wise Local 357.
Brian Thomas, maintenance mechanic, also steward for the maintenance department.
So just a few comments. After many years of cuts, it seemed like we're back here again, that we were finally getting them back up to staff last year, and now here we are again. They want to make cuts to the, facilities, maintenance, custodial, and again, we're back here, the teachers, just mentioned teachers, support staff, the WISE. It seems like it's not across the board to everyone. We seem to take the brunt of the cuts that are proposed here today. I also wanted to talk a little bit about preventative maintenance. They want to eliminate maintenance mechanics in the schools, the helpers who helps the maintenance people, and the custodial helpers. And you're spending all this money fixing up schools, spending bond money to fix schools. They're talking about building a new high school or in the future. And you have to maintain those facilities. That's why some of the schools are in the conditions that they're in, because they haven't been, if you cut staff, you're not going to, preventative maintenance is going to suffer. So you're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on new schools, and they're not going to be kept updated with everything from changing filters to all preventative maintenance things that you have to do. The state is finally talking about it, like some of the bond money issue. They want people to have preventative maintenance programs. But if you cut these positions, you're not going to have that. That's going to suffer. Eliminate a painter position, for example. Everyone says, well, if you eliminate a painter, I guess you'll have a construction company do that by part of the bond. But that all has to be paid for. That's all not free. A bond, sometimes people think a bond is something you pay over time. It's free. It's just like a credit card. Eventually you have to pay for it. And so by cutting these positions, preventative maintenance in particular, and also, as Betty just mentioned, the cleanliness of the schools is going to suffer.
Just to add, we felt like we were in a very good place for a time, and we were getting ahead of things. We were getting on top of things. We're just. My concern is just that the maintenance and the condition of the schools that they're in, they'll just slip farther and farther behind. It's just it always seems like this department absorbs a large brunt of cuts, and the understaffing just makes it more and more difficult all the time to keep up on things. So that's the concern that I have. Thank you.
So close. Hi, Tracy McDermott, teacher assistant in the IES intensive emotional support classroom. TA in Warwick for 20 plus years. I am here to talk about the 13 cuts to teachers assistants. Half of the cuts that you have on here are cuts that we saw in 2019, same budget, cuts to co-taught 1 and 2. This is co-taught grade 2. I'm sure you've had discussions in closed sessions on what those cuts are and where they are, but I'm not quite sure if anybody up here or anybody sitting at this table understand what those cuts mean to those students in those classrooms. We're talking about teacher assistant support in classrooms that have upwards of 30% of the class have students with IEPs. Those are individualized education programs. Every one of those students, 8 of them, 7, 8, 9 of them, in an elementary school, grade 2 classroom, that all have different needs. You have an educator, a regular educator, and a special educator. There is only one TA in that classroom to help support those students. To think that a special educator can somehow juggle between 8 children reading, writing, math, they're all on different levels, they all struggle, and now more than ever across the district, we have seen massive increases in behaviors escalating behaviors in every program across the district, including regular ed classes. But as far as special ed classes go, when you have a TA in that room, that's the only person in that room that's CPI trained. That is the only person in that room that has mandatory training in de-escalation, restraint, exiting, escorting a student out of a room. You have to call the crisis team. Do you know who's on the crisis team in every building? 90% of it, TAs, because we are the only ones trained in de-escalation. So if you have 8 students in a co-taught classroom that now have less support to help them when they need help in writing, to modify work on the spot, they get frustrated. They break a pencil, they tip a chair, they, throw their paper. Those are signs that that child is going to escalate pretty rapidly. If you have no one in there to intervene and say, you know what, Joey, let's go for a walk. Let's go get a drink. Let's go to the office and check the mail. Let's just de-escalate a little bit. Let's go to a corner of the room and calm down. You now have no one to do that. That's 2 minutes. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up and I'm going to walk away. But every single time a child escalates to that point and there is no one to help, what ends up happening is a lot of these kids lately we're sending out of district. $75,000 a student to go out of district. That is 3 teachers' assistants.
I'm way shorter than Tracy. Good evening, everybody. I don't want to, Mary Townsend, teacher assistant, Warwick Public Schools, 40 years, Wise Union president, and a Warwick taxpayer. I'm not going to beat a dead horse and repeat all the comments about detailing our maintenance staff and the cuts, but I am going to say this on behalf of all Wise Union members. I tell them all the time, I like to believe that many of you feel the same way. I understand when Ms. Necco, Darlene Necco comes up and says, you have to have teachers to teach, because that's an absolute. But you also have to have Wise Union people who come in every day, get the buildings ready, open them up so those students and those staff can come in the door. Once they're in there, you need Wise Union members, TAs, clerical staff, to function throughout the day, to handle the daily operations as students go through the day. You need all of our clerical staff in your offices, at the administration building, and everywhere that provide all that support to the administrators. They take care of billing and invoices and providing substitute coverage to buildings, even though we have frontline. There are lots of things. I don't know if the public sees. I can't even get up here in 2 minutes and say all the things that I believe we do to support student staff in this district. So I appreciate that you take the time to consider. I know that's not easy for you. It's not easy for anybody, and I know you all know I believe that. I don't fault anybody, any one person for anything, but I do think that we all feel the same way about our students, and I hope that you're able to make the decisions that you need to make to support the kids. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Williams. I am a Warwick resident, voter, parent, and Wise Union member. I come to you tonight in response to your proposed cuts of Wise Union members, specifically the IASE TA cuts. I've been working in this district for a number of years now and am deeply concerned with the cuts being proposed by individuals that have never set foot into our special ed classrooms. These decisions have been made without proper consideration of student and staff safety. I wonder how you might handle a student who elopes on a regular basis while the sole IASE classroom TA is helping another student in the bathroom and the classroom teacher is with the remaining students. I am certain you would somehow find fault with the staff and not how administrators failed that student by not providing adequate staffing. This also does not account for how we are supposed to do any inclusion or whole class instruction. In our classroom, we have a number of students that require one-on-one attention for academics. It is impossible to manage behaviors and teach at the same time. You would be setting students and staff up for failure. How would lunches be covered? It is unsafe for just one adult to be in a classroom due to the elopement factor alone, not to mention anything else that may come up along the way. This is this year alone. Next year, we will have no less than 3 possible elopement risks. Safe? I think not. Also, arrival and dismissal would be an issue. Our students come in on about 5 different minibuses at staggered times. Some can wait to walk down to the classroom while others cannot. Typically, one TA walks some students to the classroom while the other waits for the remaining students to arrive. The same issue exists at dismissal. With respect, I fail to see how all of these proposed cuts could become a reality when several other administrators have assistants. I don't doubt that having an assistant makes those jobs easier, but where is the direct impact on students, academics, and safety? Why are there not considerations and cuts across the board? These cuts are being proposed by individuals that basically have little to no information on how our classrooms run. One district is not the same as another, so to come here and disrupt an entire system that works is not only reckless, it throws our students' needs right out the window. Again, the children will suffer the most with these cuts. You are speaking loud and clear as to what the priorities of this district have become. It is shameful. Clearly, it is not the students. If you follow through with these proposed cuts, I would bet you will see an increase in injuries and staff absences. This will take a toll on students and staff. I understand you have a budget to balance, but at what cost? Maybe your concern really just is the almighty dollar and not the main reason we are here, which for me is the students. When I was a student in Cranston, Warwick was one of the top districts in the state for education and special education. Now it seems residents are opting more and more for private schools or to send their children out of district. My daughter is set to graduate from Tollgate this year. I did not want her to go anywhere but Warwick because of the quality of the educators we are blessed to have in this city. Time and time again, I have said that the issue with Warwick schools is not our educators, it is our administration. I must say, though, Ms. Danbrook is the exception. In summary, if you follow through with these proposed cuts, you will be doing irreparable harm to students, staff, and this district as a whole. I implore you to reconsider these cuts, especially in special education.
Good evening. My name is Emily, and I am a Warwick citizen, taxpayer, product of Warwick Public Schools, and a substitute TA. During the previous budget meeting, you voted to cut my mother's job. She is a building aide at Robertson and has been there for about 15 years as a lunch aide and bus monitor. Tonight, you will be voting to cut my significant other's job, a position that has been cut 3 times in the past 5 years he has been employed. A story echoed by many that I've come across in this district. Our schools are some of the oldest schools in this state. Parts in the buildings some of them come from 1940s and 1960s. And in order to keep them as functioning, maintained, and as clean as they are, we need a dedicated and hardworking staff that you keep cutting. If staff from WISE and the teachers union keep on getting cut, it's going to cost this district more than an unbalanced budget. You are losing the dedicated and hardworking employees that we need to keep these schools running. And to answer your question last week, Ms. Cobden, 18 hours is what it took to clear out the snow at Tollgate during that big snowstorm, not counting the cleanup the following day. This job was done by someone whose position will end up being cut tonight unless different decisions are being made. I am asking and pleading with the school committee to really sit and think before deciding on these cuts made tonight. These cuts will not benefit the teachers, students, buildings, or anything that this district has left to offer. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business, which is the discussion and action of the FY23 superintendent recommendation budget. Any of my colleagues like to start?
Sure, I'll start. Thank you, Madam Chair. I need to do my broken record routine again and just say that, I'm sorry, I'm going to use my broken record routine and just again comment on this process is inherently flawed. Because what's going to happen here tonight is we're going to make decisions. We're going to either make more cuts, make some additions, or a mix of whatever. We're going to come up with a dollar amount that we're going to ask the city for, and then they're going to decide what to give us. And if they give us significantly less than what we ask for, which historically has been the case, we're going to come right back here again, and we're going to do this 3-day exercise all over again. All over again. And when we're the ones who have to decide on the cuts, again, I'll say we have no way to raise revenue. We can't control the money that comes in. We can't. And like I said before, in the vast majority of the country, school districts are taxing entities. So you know what your problem is. You can, here's the tax levy, here's what we're going to get in, here's what we can spend. We have a little control over the income, so we're not constantly crushing expenses to death. But I'd also, for some people's edification, who think that the school department are profligate spenders, I was able to dig up a RIPEC study that was requested by a former school committee chair, I think, and the former mayor in 2006. And people have conniption fits because the property tax levy is about 55% for schools thereabouts. In 2006, it was 60%. Today, our salaries and benefits are about 80% of our budget, here over 80. In 2006, they were 86% of our budget. And you know how we got to those numbers? We closed schools. We cut staff. We cut this, that, and the other thing. Okay? And my only question is, it's a rhetorical question, when does that end? How does that end? Do we just decide, let's close 2 more schools, maybe we can squeeze some savings out that way? All right? So it's, the process itself is just, it's just so flawed. And it's not just here, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You won't find a single school district that won't have an argument with its municipality as they go hat in hand to their town or their city council saying, please, sir, may we have? And they say no. So it's related to that, if everybody in here is a voter, I don't know how many people are aware that in the state of Rhode Island, there's no constitutional right to a public education. Doesn't exist in the Rhode Island Constitution. Never has. Twice in the last 25 years, the Rhode Island Supreme Court has said, no, there isn't one. Education is granted essentially at the behest of the General Assembly. It's beautiful. Same thing existed in Massachusetts until, I think, 92. And Massachusetts began its transformation into the best school district in the country once their Supreme Court said, no, there is a constitutional right. Because what happens from that, in my opinion, it completely changes the way you fund education. Right now, I think, every city, most of education gets funded on property tax dollars. Your house, my house, your house, your house, your business. That's where the money comes from. And the state share is small. So RIPEC, again, just did another study on school funding in Rhode Island. They just released it, I think, yesterday or today. And they criticize, they say that the state should fund more of the share of education and release the burden on the property taxpayer. And they also called for approval of the constitutional amendment. They support it. Now that's passed the Senate pretty resoundingly. It's at the House right now. And there have been a lot of signers or sponsors of that piece of legislation. But my concern is this is a dance. This is a dance where the House tells the Senate, you pass it, we won't, it dies. There's never been as good a chance for this thing to pass than what we're going to see on the ballot in November. I would encourage everybody in this room, email your state senator, your state representative, mostly representative because the Senate's already approved it. So email your state rep and ask them to support a constitutional amendment to a public education. The fiscal people in the House aren't going to like it because they're not going to like what those numbers are going to do. But this thing that happens, I've been doing it 6 years, Ms. Barker's been doing it 10. Every administrator here, Ms. Danberg, this is her 30-something go around with a budget, right? It gets old, really fast. So But that's the system we have to operate in. I'm not crying a tale of woe, not, believe me, I'm not. But most people don't understand how this system works. And you have to understand how it works if you really want to understand how to change it. So anyway, having said that, I have a couple of other line items here that I'm curious to see if we can make some cuts. So, Mr. McGrath, I'm going to ask you. 53406 is other professional services. I'm just not sure what rolls up under that.
So 53406.
Yeah.
Other services, let's see. So we have E-rate consultant fees of 6,000. That's yours, Jeff. We have RI Student Privacy Alliance of 5,000, and then
What are the big nuts? Because it's a big line item.
yeah. So and the 40,000. There's a $40,000 other professional services. That's physicals, respirators for facilities.
Okay, so it's a $52,000 line item. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong column. I thought it was a 690,000 line item.
Oh,
Sorry. So those expenses, I know we're budgeting 52. We go to FY22 was 31. FY20 it was 40. If I make a suggestion to reduce that by $5,000, is that critical in your estimation?
I don't believe so. I have a feeling that we're going to see an increase in pricing, 8% increasing inflation. So there could be some risk there as Mr. Oliver buys some of these respirators and other things along those lines. But I don't think $5,000 is going to.
But, well, for what it's worth, I think a year and a half ago, a dozen masks might have cost you $35.
Correct.
I think now you can get them for like $6. All right. So, Madam Chair, can I make the motions as I approach the line items? Would that be fine? Yeah, so I would move a motion on line number 53406 to reduce that by $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next. Sorry, you want to do the rubbish disposal? You want to do that later?
Sure.
Okay. Line number 54313 is repair non-student trans vehicles. Which vehicles are those? If they're non-student, are they Mr. Oliver's vehicles or?
Correct. The majority of those are Mr. Oliver's vehicles. Yeah.
54313.
And
So,
also,
all right,
and also the Xerox copier, Mr. Taylor's, all the Xerox copier agreements and leases also fall into that category as well.
And it's under the title of a trans?
I'm sorry,
54313.
Oh, 3, 5. Oh, sorry, I grabbed the wrong line here. Yeah. Nope, down 2. Yep, yeah, they're all Mr. Oliver, yep.
So those are parts for your vehicles, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so we started to lease vehicles too, right? So I'm assuming that leasing vehicles, so we're not driving them until they're dead, does that reduce?
Yes, it does.
Okay, because we put a $15,000 increase, so that's at $45,000. Now, I know with parts there has been inflation, I understand all that. So I would be looking to reduce that by $5,000. And again, this is nibbling around the edges, but I'm not sure if, again, as we lease more vehicles, how many of the old, really decrepit vehicles have we retired permanently and turned into scrap?
Yeah, I think we'll be okay if we reduce it.
Thank you. All right, so Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we reduce line 5, UCOA code 54313 by $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. McGrath, line 55401, advertising costs. What exactly is that for? I know it's something I think we have to have, because don't we have to still post public notices in the Providence Journal and all that other happy stuff?
Correct. So, yes, it's between HR and purchasing has a chunk of money to be able to advertise bids and job postings.
Okay, so it looks like we cut it, it's traditionally 23, 24, we budgeted at 19. Is that you think that's a realistic number? Or if I was to look for 5,000 out of that, because we're gonna have some bond stuff, well, oh God, don't curse me.
I moved the bond advertising to the bond budget.
All right. So I'm inclined to take 5,000 out of that. But I am open. I mean, if you push back and say you don't think it's wise, I'm fine with that. I'm not here to get a big sledgehammer and say, you know.
Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Jerry, she's 15 of that line, and
Okay.
she's saying.
Yeah, I don't want to cut that too close. All right, so I'm going to take that one off. I'm going to take that one off my list. Item 56116 is athletic supplies and uniforms. We have $101,264 budgeted. Mr. Ricks, I know you've cut that line. It looks like you reduced it by $16,000. And I know that we're on a replacement schedule for uniforms, right? So you're at 101. Historically, we've been at 110. I have nothing against athletics, even though my kids were not athletes. But I'm wondering if we would have cut that to say $90,000 or so, how big? What does that not allow us to get?
There's a switch on.
There we go. Hi. I'm not sure where the 16,000 is. The last time I sat down and went through the budget for this preparation, it was over 40,000. I really don't have any wiggle room at all in that account. I've given up all uniforms for next year. There'll be none replaced. And as I mentioned earlier, when we did our budget in January, a dozen baseballs was $70. Now they're $130. I don't think there's any wiggle room in that, but that's just my opinion.
This line item isn't just uniforms. This is
No,
other
this is
supplies
everything.
like baseballs and footballs?
Everything, yes.
Okay, so it's not uniforms.
Correct. There will be no uniforms purchased next year.
All right, so the line item now is at $101,000. Is that accurate, or did you say you think it's about 40 or 45 for the supplies? Forget the uniforms.
No, the uniforms have been removed. Maybe I'm not understanding. There are
Oh,
no.
well,
there are
okay,
no
I'm
uniforms.
asking because it's 101 this year.
Correct.
For last year, it was 118.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, we
Yeah.
we ordered a lot of uniforms and other stuff this year. Yes,
So-
correct.
All right, so the 101, if there were no uniforms I'm just trying to figure out, if there were no uniforms in the 101, I would have expected the previous years to be, well, $17,000. So is that, I don't remember what we approve for when we approve a uniform, of roughly how much that is. Depends on the sport, obviously.
Correct. And we've continually made cuts. A lot of times, whatever we approve at the end of the year, it does not actually end up that when the actual year starts. We have to go back and take additional cuts, so.
Yep, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Again, last week I used the term, we're going to roll dice here, and I'm not a gambler, but I'm going to make a proposal that we cut $5,000 from that line item. So, Madam Chair, I'd move a motion 56116, we reduce it by $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Any discussion,
Yeah, discussion, please.
please?
So if we're cutting 5K, like how much of an impact is that I'm assuming it's gonna be spread over, however many sports that you have. How much of an impact is that having each?
Correct. Well, throughout the district, in a normal setting, probably very little, but the fact that I've already cut every bone that was left to be cut, and that the price increases are going up in everything we purchase. I mean, I'm obviously do whatever you guys instruct me to do, but it's going to be very tough.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I would just tell my colleagues, if you don't agree with it, just don't support it because I proposed it. It's, it's democratic here, so it's up to the five of us.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Cool. Okay. Mr. McGrath, I didn't do 56207, did I?
No.
I didn't do, okay.
No.
56207 says vehicle maintenance supplies parts. So what rolls up under this? Because it's been pretty, well, it's 50,000, last year was 60, and it was 70, so I'm not sure if these are vehicle parts only, or, and whose vehicle?
No, that covers like plow parts, tires, all stuff that goes with other pieces of equipment, trailer repairs.
So
school
not
track-
vehicles, though?
Well, they're considered vehicles because they're registered, like our trailers are registered, you know.
But it's not a truck?
No,
A truck
no,
or-
not necessarily. Like some of our lawn equipment, our tractors, things of that nature.
Okay. All right. Because I was looking to take 5 out of that, and I would reduce it to $45,000. Now, I don't know how old our tractors are and all that other equipment, if they're prone to break. You can be honest with me, I'm a big boy.
I'll agree with you to take the
Yeah.
5.
Okay. And again, when we go over budget and you come before us sometime in, I don't know, September, say, you can wag your finger at me, I'll accept it, I will.
I understand.
This is not something that I enjoy at all.
Neither do we, sir.
Ms. McGrath, 56401 is textbooks, I'm just looking for a clarification.
Wait, are we?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I got to make the motion. I'm sorry. Madam Chair, I make a motion that we reduce UCOA Code 56207 by $5,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Mr. McGrath, 56401 textbooks. I know we had a conversation about this, and some of this was moved into ESSER.
Correct.
Right, so on the spreadsheet I have here, it's showing for textbooks on 56401, 257, 165.
Correct.
Is that accurate, or is it actually less than that because some of that was moved to ESSER?
Correct. So the 56101 line in that grant funded, that $1.5 million had 244 of textbooks ESSER that needed to be, so it's a wash in the total column, but it was just, I put them all in 56101 when it really should have been in 56401, leaving 13,000 in 56401.
Okay, all right, I get that.
So it's a net to zero.
The net amount we're gonna spend on textbooks is the 240, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's gonna be 244 plus the 13. So the
So-
total amount will be the 256, but the local fund piece of it will only be 13,000.
So, all right, so only 13 coming up operate,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, then, okay, that one's off the list. Bear with me. 57305 says equipment. It's an $83,000 line item. I don't know what rolls up under that.
All right, so 57305, it's a collection of a lot of small different items, so different for classrooms, different chemicals and cameras and classroom needs rolls up into that line. Kindergarten classrooms, replacements of equipment.
Okay. I assume that's across various departments?
Yes, yep.
All right,
HR
so
has.
I don't know who would tell me if I'm crazy to reduce that by $5,000. I mean, if, again, I'm just looking at line items that have a significant amount of money in them, that the line item code I know can contain a bunch of different things. For instance, I don't look at reference books and say $5,000 for reference books. I know what a reference book is, but, you know, in equipment, if it's general stuff, I don't want to cut $5,000 and all of a sudden there's something that's very, very needed we can't get. Because, you know, school committee member Testa decided to cut it $5,000. I'm not out to hurt
Correct.
that line item.
Yeah,
if you know what I
so
mean.
in the budget process, obviously everyone submitted for the 623. In the meetings with the superintendent and the directors, we cut that 540 from that line. leaving the 83. So our intention is the 83 is going to be spread over the remaining requests. So an additional $5,000 will just reduce the amount that we're able to spread over the remaining open requests.
Okay, I'm going to pass on that, because don't have a good feeling about that one. There are a couple of others. I'm going to take these. 53303, which is conferences. I'd like to just reduce that by $10,000. And just for full disclosure, these are some cuts that administration already provided for us today, that they looked at it again, but we have to make a formal motion.
Is that a motion?
I'm making a motion for 53303 conferences to reduce it by $10,000.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Line number 53701, which is other fees and charges, to reduce that by $1,500.
That was a motion, right?
A motion, yes, to reduce that line item by $1,500.
Second.
Line number 53701, other fees and charges. Yeah, this was something that the superintendent felt she could cut.
Yeah, we're on that list.
Mhm. Is
So
it moved?
you're putting the motions
Yeah,
up
I
for
moved to
the
reduce
extra
it.
items that Superintendent DeAmbrook found?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is one of them, so did you
All
move
in-
it?
Okay.
Is it moved and seconded?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Next would be 56402, library books. I would make a motion to reduce that by $6,000, and Superintendent Danbrook said that we have been, over the past few years, we've been funding library books pretty well, so she's comfortable with this. So 56402 for a $6,000 reduction.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 56404, subscriptions and periodicals. Make a motion to reduce that by $6,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Bacchus?
Are we gonna sit here and nickel and dime this budget all night?
No, I'm really almost done.
Thank you.
I'm almost done.
It's getting, the whole thing is gross.
I did say I don't like the process.
Hmm?
I did say I don't like the process.
Why don't I suggest
Want to do the remaining ones?
you list off, because we've already discussed
Okay.
this, and
Yeah, I'm fine.
Ms. DeAmbrook did her best to find additional cuts. These are her additional cuts that we actually already went through. So if we list them all off, we
Okay.
can either,
Yeah, so I'm
we
going to
can
amend
vote
my...
on them,
I'll
because I
just
think we're
amend
all in
my-
agreement.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to just do the last four. All right, so I'd make a motion that line number, UCOA code 56404, be reduced by $6,000. 55110, which is RIPTA bus, reduced by $1,000. UCOA line 57311, time card system, reduced by $10,000. UCOA line 57309, additional cameras, will reduce that by $50,000. That's my motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I just want to thank Superintendent DeAmbrook for putting in extra work and trying to find more things that we could
Madam
possibly
Chair, I'd like
save.
to thank my team as well.
Okay, thank you to everyone who is involved in the administration to find this money.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Cornell?
Yeah, so I have some things. So the first one is regarding the other, it was already cut for 5,000, so it's currently $40,484 dollars. So if we cut that by 5,000, could you live with that, or?
Which other are we looking at?
Yeah, sorry, the number, 56211.
562, other supplies. Yeah, I mean, so that one's Mr. Oliver again.
Correct. That's all for fertilizer, infield mix, PPE, coal patch, all that type of stuff for maintaining our fields and our parking lots.
So you don't think, like, you can take a $5,000 cut, or?
I have to humbly ask that I not take any more out of my budget. I've been,
Okay, I understand. Okay, never mind.
All that is going way up in price.
Okay, the next thing I have is under, is electricity. It's currently budgeted at, that's on line number 56215, it's currently budgeted at $1,600,000. It's already been cut $300,000 from the original $1,900,000. So if we cut $10,000 from that, would that be, could you work with that?
well, with the increases of electricity, I think that we're trimmed it pretty far, and we're skirting a very fine line. I think that we should stay away from the utility bills at this point.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that feedback, so,
Thank you.
then, the last thing is, so under administrative support, so originally it was $15,000, this is line item 53101. So originally it was $50,000, it's been cut to $29,000. So if we cut $5,000 from the budget, could that work?
Superintendent Danbrook, that one lives in your line. That's the admin support. I know it was originally 50. We had cut it down. It's usually the investigations, the fiscal audits, contingent consultants, and all that.
Attorneys we have to hire other than our own. So if we have investigations to do as a school district, it is Mr. Hennius does work for the school committee, so we do go to outside for legal services, outside legal services, and that's what that line item covers.
Okay, is there room if we cut $5,000 from that? Do you think you could still work with that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, therefore I make a motion to cut $5,000 from line 53101, which is administrative support.
So moved. Oh, you moved, I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Adams.
Mr. Oliver, line item, the fun one that we went over yesterday. 54201, rubbish disposal services, the 120,500. Could you explain maybe the breakdown of what that is, please?
The breakdown of the 120 was for large container services for the upcoming projects over the summer and our normal trash removal.
Mr. Oliver, are those the tipping fees that we pay at the landfill?
Correct.
Right,
Our services and our tipping fees, yes. Our tipping fees for the, right.
Right, and I think Central Landfill has raised those, or they're raising them.
Correct, they are.
Yeah. Oh, okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Adams.
No, that's fine. I was actually gonna say, could you help me out with like the verbiage on this?
I'm going to ask the superintendent, I think, or Mr. McCaffrey or Mr. McGrath, as far as trash pickup. 2 nights ago, we were talking about having to go out to bid for it, but has that changed? Do we not have to bid? Thank you. So we can keep the lights on and don't have to lock the doors.
So I guess.
I would keep that line item as it is.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the increased
Yeah, that's fair.
dumpsters.
How many administrators are we laying off? I'd like an answer.
I'm sorry, Ms. Backus.
Oh, I'm sorry.
At this time, there are no administrators being laid off.
You know, as we sit here and we nickel and dime things in this budget, I hope you understand that we're not going to balance the budget by taking 5,000 here, 6,000 there, 10,000 there, cutting things that we may and probably will end up needing, because the cost of products and things are skyrocketing. As I said the other night, and I'll say again, the city has underfunded us for 3+ decades. And the state hasn't done anything to help education. Everything falls on the taxpayer. And as the schools go, as I say, so goes the city. If the city invests in schools, makes them robust, we can bring people back. Mr. Testa talked a little bit about all schools having this problem. That's not true. That's not true. Not that I want to refute Mr. Testa, because he usually is right. But there are a few schools out there, a few districts, that are stealing students from Warwick and from other districts and ride, expletive, in their wisdom, thinks that this is perfectly okay, and they're willing to say that no program is substantially similar. Well, I don't agree with that, and I don't believe that as a taxpayer or as a member of a school committee in this state. Warwick Public Schools runs a career development program, one of the best in the state, if not the best. And we're losing kids because our programs aren't substantially similar. Well, you know what? That is right. That is 100% right, because our programs are better than these pathway programs where kids get a couple of hours a day, a couple of classes a year. But by golly, those districts that are stealing students from places like Warwick, their sports teams are really doing well. That's not to say that we don't do well, because we have done well. But we could do better. We've lost people, we've lost kids who would play in Warwick because they want to go play in a newer, better school. It's not the fault of this school committee or any previous school committee that our schools are in the shape they're in. Are there places where some of this could have been avoided? Yes, but like I said the other night, it's cut, 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 cut. And we close schools and we don't save a lot of money. But now we have people running out of Warwick. And that does not bode well for the city. And I think we have to negotiate this with the city and get on a better footing, or figure out a way to start to allow the Northeast to levy their own taxes. to run schools. Or something else, or, maybe if the feds picked up part of it, I mean, they certainly throw a lot of money around. But when are we going to realize that education is a right, whether we acknowledge it or not? Public education is a right, whether we acknowledge it or not. Massachusetts had the insight to realize and affirm that it is a right, and their schools are doing much better. There's got to be a better way to run things. And with a population leaving the city instead of coming in because we don't have enough money to run our schools, it's just a mess. And we have amazing administrators, teachers, aides. The majority of our employees are amazing people, and they do an amazing job. And they're here for the right reason. They're here for kids. When is the city and the state going to get on board? When will we stop cutting? Or will the schools go away? We'll send people out of district. And that's the only way we're truly going to save money at this point. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Mr. Testa, what's your next line item?
Thank you. Madam Chair, at this time, I'm going to make some proposals that go the other way. I have to say, I said it the other night, a lot of these wise building staff cuts really, really concern me. Everybody up here lived through when we dramatically reduced the custodial staff and what the blowback was, what the conditions were in the buildings. Everybody heard that. The city council heard it, the public heard it, and we certainly heard it, and the administration heard it too. My big concern is when you start to make cuts in these positions, it's not easy to get them back. It's not a position that's necessarily based on student need, right? It's not like a teacher assistant. A student need dictates a teacher assistant. We've seen it before, where in past budgets we've reduced them and just brought some back. With custodians, it's not really the custodial staff, whether cleaners, helpers, whatever they are. It's not easy to do. And then the buildings suffer, and there's a gigantic ripple effect from that. I'll speak for myself. I lived through that once. I'm not going to live through that again. Or I don't want to live through that again. I'm going to make a motion here, Madam Chair, to restore some of the layoffs, not all of them. It's probably going to total about $440,000. So we're going to go $440,000 the other way. To retain the heating mechanic, the painter, 4 of the helper custodians, 2 helpers, and 2 building mechanics. Total would be, I think, approximately $440,000. And I say this because I know what we have to do. I'm the first one to say we need to go with the best possible ask to the city. And I think we worked pretty hard to cut from that ask. But we have to be able to stand firm in what it is we actually put forward. So if we were to go before the city with all of these positions eliminated, for me, that's a problem, because I know that I don't think we'd be cleaning our buildings very well. And I know what happens when we don't do that. So to me, that would be kind of stupid, for me personally. I mean, it could very well be if this body approves them and the city still cuts the money, we may be back here again. But I think we need to go before them and explain why we're doing what we're doing. And I'm happy to do that, so there's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Oh, Mr. Cornell?
I'm in complete agreement with this, and I think we should add more back in, because I don't think we can afford to cut any of them. I mean, once again, there are positions in English being cut, teaching positions in English as well, which maybe Mr. Testa will talk about. We have kids graduating from our schools that are not literate. They can't read at grade level, and they can't write at grade level. And I am very aware of this, because I've worked with numerous kids, and I've seen their writing skills, and I've seen their reading skills, or seen what they aren't. And I believe, it's my humble opinion, that every student who graduates from Warwick Public School should be literate. But if we don't have the time and the teachers to teach them, just like if we don't have people to take care of our infrastructure, clean it, then how are we going to get it done? And it's not the fault of anybody here. It's just what is, because it's cut, 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 cut. And right now, we're cutting muscle and bone. Thank you.
All in favor?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Cornell, I'm sorry.
I would like to make amendment of the motion to restore 2 co-taught TAs. Because like we're cutting 11 TAs here, and I think we should bring some back. They're very important for the classroom, and we're bringing a lot of custodians back, which are definitely needed. We should also bring back some TAs too, because we need both of them. So I think we should, so I would amend Mr. Testa's motion to bring back 2 co-taught TAs.
Need a second for the motion to amend.
No, I don't want to second that, and I'm happy to explain.
She has to call for a second if there's no second.
I'm sorry. Well, can we let it go? No, I'm not seconding it, so I don't need to run my mouth.
I would like to second this with the discussion.
Hey, Madam Chair, on this, the reason why I separated out the building positions versus the teacher assistant positions is because everybody in administration knows, from the superintendent down to everybody, as I mentioned, teacher assistants are based on student need, and I have to hope, and I have to put some trust in the superintendent and her team that they are going to staff the teacher assistant positions to student need. I mean, there have been years past where we've made major reductions, and then we come back and we just approve them. If we have to have them here, there, and everywhere, then you can come back to us and say they need to be added. I'm assuming that you made your cuts. again, this is an administrative function. This is not a school committee function on adequate what student need is. So I think, again, I have to defer to the administration that they're going to use TAs in the appropriate manner and the best environment for the best interest of the students. So that's why I didn't want to. Well, I won't support. We can put it up for a vote. I'm not going to support it.
I do have a question for the administration. On Oakland Beach, there's a lot of TA cuts there. And I know that's a school that has plenty of classrooms that do need them. And I, like David, would like to put the trust in the administration on this. I just see it in paper, and it looks pretty frightening, to be honest. Could someone kind of give me an overview of why we're cutting so many TAs just in Oakland Beach?
Madam Chair, if I may, the special ed department, they sit together doing their staffing every year. The director, the assistant director, and the office manager, and they go by number of students in the program, and then they bring to the table what they think is an appropriate staffing need. So it comes from the special ed department.
Yeah. We need. All in favor?
We're voting on the amendment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Was it seconded?
Yes, I seconded it.
Oh, did you say all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's failed.
Now you have to vote on David's motion.
Now, Mr. Testa, your motion is back on the table.
Right, so my motion's been moved, moved and seconded, so we're just calling a vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Excuse me, Madam Chair, may I just make one comment? Mr. Coppolino just texted me. He is home with COVID. That's why he's not here tonight. He's in quarantine, so I just wanted to explain his absence. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't have a proposal, but I have some questions with regard to WTU proposed cuts. Mr. McCaffrey, I think this would go to you. It's a secondary level question. At Pilgrim, there's a reduction of 2 English teachers. When I look at this, I see the reduction in English. I don't see a reduction in math. Every student has to take English and math. So when I look at that, and I look at, when I sit up here, and I'm so thankful to Ms. Cousineau and Dr. Schultz for the help and the focus on achievement and everything else, and I know that ELA is one of our sore points at the secondary level. When I see proposed English cuts, it concerns me. So just educate me as to when these cuts get proposed, what's the basis upon which those decisions are made?
It's simple math. It's based upon cost requests that are entered by the guidance counselors within the Aspen build. You look at the numbers, you apply contractual language to the build, and you come out with a calculation. How many students can you have in each classroom? And you also take into consideration how many students may have IEPs within a classroom, and you come up with the number of sections that you would need within that particular department, whether it's math, English, science, social studies, things of that nature. And it just comes down to basic math, based upon the numbers.
And that's a snapshot as to when you're doing it now.
Yes.
So if we're in considering we're in May, So those numbers could change.
If enrollment goes up during the summer, over the next few months, we'll request that you add a position back to a particular school. We've done that in the past. We monitor the numbers closely. As students register in the district, we keep a close eye on it. And if there's a need for an additional staffing, we always bring that before you in the August meeting.
Okay. I just need to go on record so that stuff really, really concerns me. And again, that's an administrative function of the district. So, and I do, to some degree, I do have some sympathy for Ms. Necco about the foreign language with the new ride potential ride requirements, which will be a future agenda item because the public needs to know. I don't think those have been finalized yet, but I don't think they're very good. But I just want to make sure. Okay. So. How, in the secondary level, I get it because it's sections. At the elementary level, is it different?
Available seats, I would imagine, but Ms. Cousineau can answer that for you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Elementary is basically the same type of formula. In kindergarten, we have 22 students max in a class, and then in grades 1 through 5, we have upwards to 26 bodies in a class. So based on the new pre-enrollment numbers that we're receiving right now, there possibly could be some reduction in staff. But again, as Mr. McCaffrey said, as numbers continue to come in over the next couple of months, we'll be looking at that closely.
And is it typical over the summer months to see some slight increase in enrollment numbers?
Sometimes. We've done a few extra things this year. My secretary, Cindy Peloso, and I, we photocopied all of the kindergarten registration flyers. I went around to all the daycares in the neighborhoods, and I dropped off actual paper copies. We sent digital copies to all of the daycares. We put flyers over at the Warwick Public Library. So we're really trying to promote, registration to try to boost our numbers.
Thank you. And again, this is all contingent upon what the total allocation is from the city. So we could be back here again having so much fun. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may make one comment. We have to go by the numbers we have today. We have a June 1st deadline for layoffs for WTU per law, so we have to go by the numbers we have today, be able to notice people and have the meeting before June 1st. So that's the time frame we're looking at. Thank you.
Just because Mr. Tester brought it up, so let's say that foreign language requirement is passed. I'm assuming we're probably gonna have to add in those two foreign language teacher positions back in, correct?
I don't know if it is passed, if it would be effective for next year.
Okay.
It probably wouldn't go into effect until the following school year.
Okay.
Yeah. And potentially, if every student's required to have that, we could be looking at more than just one, right? Again, that's another unfunded mandate that they're going to throw on districts if that stuff went into effect as they originally presented.
Absolutely, and that would not only be a Warwick problem, that would be a statewide problem.
Exactly, and it's not the first time that they've put mandates and no money behind it to help fund it. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Bacchus.
And speaking about the English teachers at Pilgrim again that are being cut, I'd like you to know that we produce performance data that gives us an indication of where students are at their weakest, whether they need literacy support or intervention, and things of that sort. And we need to make sure that our students get this, because not everybody is a great student in English and writing and everything. And the other thing is, we're cutting this, we're taking the English department, which is I mean, reading, writing, and arithmetic are still the basic skills that we need to provide to our students academically. If they can't read and write, then what are they going to do with their lives? And this affects a lot more kids than a lot of folks would like to admit, perhaps. But the other piece of this is that if we bunch everybody up and we don't have electives like creative writing or things like that, and there are a lot of kids that would, like lots of different classes, but why English? Why do we keep cutting English? I mean, we're talking about, RIDE is talking about making us educate children in a foreign language, students in a foreign language. And our kids cannot read and write English. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? So, I would like to make a motion to put those 2 English teachers back in the budget. I could use a second, guys. You could discuss it.
I would second it and look for discussion.
Yes, Mr. Cornell.
So, yeah, on the sheet, it says both the English positions are transferred to job fair, but they're not listed as layoffs, so could someone explain that?
That's correct. In certain situations where teachers are dual certified, they can be transferred to a different certification where there may be a vacancy.
Yeah. But in the current proposal, so no English teachers are being proposed to be laid off because it doesn't list that, or is that just?
Correct.
Okay.
So a less senior English teacher would be transferred to another certification.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. My concern with this is Mr. McCaffrey, I think, just explained why they arrived at what they arrived at. So, I mean, you could use the same argument and put everyone back and put every single thing back. And again, if it's driven by the SNAP, this isn't new. This isn't a new process. This is how it's been for years. I have friends of mine, they get laid off and get called back, and I get it. My concern is that by doing this, I think there's already a process in place by which you determine this, and then we're kind of tinkering with that. And I would just say that it's a little different than what we did on the building people, because the formula isn't there for when you're assigning custodial staff, maintenance staff, helpers, and all that. As it is, they rove anyway. So there's not a clear-cut formula like there is when you're assigning educators to a particular position. So I'm a little concerned about, no, I'm not a little concerned, I am concerned about doing this. I'm not going to support it, not because I don't want to have the appropriate amount of English teachers. My daughter absolutely loved her English teacher. She's about to graduate as an English teacher. So her love of English came from Aldrich and Pilgrim. But I have to put my heart aside here, and I have to defer to Mr. McCaffrey when he tells me that this was arrived at by the system that we have and the process that we have. And if it changes, we would call them back. So that, that's going to be another whatever that is to change back. I just couldn't support it.
Are any of you aware that this year students entered their course requests without direct supervision or a face-to-face meeting with their guidance counselors? Does anybody know that? So if you're a kid and you don't have somebody there advising you, you're going to take all the fun stuff that you can. And you may need reading intervention, but you want to take the spy novel or something. But you really need intervention in reading and writing. But you don't have a guidance counselor saying, oh, I don't think that's a good idea. We have to start getting back to the basics. It's great. I mean, I was a double major, and my primary major was English, Lit, and I love it, but our kids can't read and write, a lot of them. Not all of them. I mean, we have a lot of top people. I was at Pilgrim last night for the honor induction for juniors, but there are a lot of kids falling through the cracks, and that's what kills me. That's what kills me. And anybody who cares about education, and I'm not saying that it doesn't kill the administration, but I don't know how we can let kids fall through the cracks like that. And I don't, this is just such a horrible conundrum. And I don't know, maybe we're offering too many fun classes and not enough basic classes. Maybe we need to look at a new way to do things. Thank you.
I'll call the vote now, if we're done. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion failed.
You didn't ask for opposed.
Oh, I did. I said all in favor.
But you didn't say opposed?
Opposed?
No.
Nay.
Nay.
So then you get the recording.
Yeah.
Well, we can't hear her half the time.
I can't look at this, I have nothing else, Madam Chair.
We all
truly
feel
don't.
that way.
I truly don't.
I'm going to say, why don't we take a 5-minute break? Just,
A motion to recess for 5 minutes?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Just going to take a 5-minute break. I think our heads are kind of spinning at this point. We all ready to start? I actually would like to make a motion to add 4 building aids.
Madam Chair, should we make a vote to get a
Do we need
recess?
to make a vote to
Resume from recess? or-
resume for recess?
Because we're in recess currently.
Do I need to make a vote to come back?
No, it was a 5-minute recess.
No, it was a 5-minute.
Okay, I'm sorry, my apologies.
It's all right. It's all right, Nathan, you're usually right, and I'm usually wrong, so. I'd like to make a motion to add 4 building aids at the cost of $28,800.
Second?
Oh, you moved in second.
Yeah. Any discussion?
I think that's a smart thing to do. I also think it would be a smart thing to put those English teachers back in, but that's not going to happen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam
Mr.
Chair-
Testa?
Thank you. I have to find it. Bear with me.
Oh, you just had it.
Yeah, where I, no, hold on. Right here. Line number 53403, which is health service providers, which is NEST. This one has been a bit of a struggle for me because I know the value of the program, and I know what it does. You guys have provided us with a whole bunch of information, a breakdown, which I'm grateful for, about what exactly it is they provide and how much they provided year to date. But for next year, I'm going to just propose that we fund it at $80,000. I can't, personally, I can't do the 140. I think that, we look at this, I know it's a necessary program, and we have to have something to provide students. So in the past, I think we've done about 94. It's going to have an impact, I know it, and I think we just have to live with it in the hopes that, if things change and we can do something more, then we will. So that's my motion, is to add 80,000 to 53403.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it. Dr. Taylor, do we have a little number? Are we in the red, orange, or yellow? We are not yellow.
Yes, Madam Chair, starting off with the superintendent's recommended ask and all the modifications that have been added and cut, you're at approximately $4,907,000 for an ask.
So I would probably call for a motion just to approve the budget with all the additions and subtractions that are left.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other line items? I think we squeezed it as best as we could. And I'm sure we're all feeling sick, because I know I am. Can I get a motion then to approve the budget as,
Motion to approve the budget as amended this evening.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Are there any nays?
Go ahead.
Aye.
Nay.
I was gonna nay too. She knew. Future meetings, our monthly school committee meeting on Tuesday, May 10th.
Chairwoman, I just want to put it on the record that I will be out of state on that date and will not be able to make the meeting. The only
Noted.
way I can make it is if I come via video.
No,
Thank
we
you.
can't do that
Which is no
anymore.
longer allowed anymore.
No, that's been taken away. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Yeah, no problem. I know we're like 10,000 off, you said. Yeah. Like, that's in the noise. Everything, you have the copy of it, so you got it, right? I shared it with you? Yeah. Okay, so that's